enough. Few solid left, but it's not enough. Few that'll really step, but it's not enough. Say you bigger than myself, but it's not enough. I get on it. Yeah, somebody gotta do it. I make it. Yeah, somebody gotta do it. I take the G-pad. Watching do it. We survived outside, all from the music. What? They like, what he on? This the Alpha and Omega. Welcome home. This is not a song. This is a revelation. How to get a gone. Teach you a man, baby. I don't understand, baby. Pay your bill and make you feel protected like I can, baby. Teach you something if you need correction. That's the plan, baby. Don't put your life in these weird hands, baby. Whoa! It's not enough. Few solid left, but it's not enough. Few that'll really step, but it's not enough. Say you bigger than myself, but it's not enough. I get on it. Yeah, somebody gotta do it. I make it. Man, yeah, somebody gotta do it. I take the G-pad. Watch do it. We survived outside, all from the music. What? Hey, turn this TV off. Ain't with my type activities, then don't you get involved. Hey, what? How many shit I seen? Send them all. Take a risk or take a trip. You know I'm tripping for my dog. Who you with? Couple sergeants and lieutenants for the get back. This revolution been televised. I fell through with the knickknacks. Hey, young, get your chili up. Yeah, I meant that. Hey, black out if they act out. Yeah, I did that. Hey, what's up, though? I hate them just hating on them. Can they both? I hate them hating on them. And they both broke. If you ain't
KBLA Talk 1580. What?
Like he entitled because he knew me since a kid.
Happy Black History Month. I repeat, the blackety blackest of Black History Months should be upon us this year. It's the least we can do in today's moment, in this time and place, in the blacklash of blacklash upon which we reside at the moment. And I'm so happy to be joined by another fearless and outspoken voice. Even when we agree or disagree, he is absolutely unapologetic. He's an abolitionist born and raised in the 2nd District. He's an attorney. He's got his own law firm, graduate of Hampton and a member of the 100 Black Men, Howard University School of Law. I should have said that. And he is the owner of the Person Lynn Law Office. Attorney Jaaye Person Lynn, welcome.
Thank you, Dominique. Good morning on this fine Black History Month here. Happy Black History Month to you.
Thank you so much. I feel like we need to just put extras on it from now on, as if we didn't already. So there's a lot of things happening right now that seem illegal to me. And so I really wanted to get your legal mind around them and see what your thoughts are, because I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but for me, when something is obviously illegal, there's supposed to be a penalty for that or a way of stopping it from happening. And it seems like that's not where we are. And let's start with the question of the sort of big question, which is a bunch of courts, a bunch of judges have stopped a bunch of moves that the Trump administration is doing. They've stopped the mass layoffs at USAID. Well, they've said they should stop. They've said that Elon Musk should, pause on his access to the Treasury Department. They've said that the buyouts and layoffs of thousands of federal workers should be frozen. And yet, J.D. Vance, the vice president, came out of his cubbyhole, we rarely hear from him, and said that the courts do not have the power to curtail the legitimate authority of the executive branch. That is exactly the opposite of my understanding. I thought the checks and balances meant that the courts do have authority over the executive branch when they're outside of the parameters of the Constitution. Well, what can they do? I mean, how do we enforce that?
Well, I just want to shout out my professor at Hampton University, Professor Gene Moore. He recently passed away. But one of the most important things that he taught me is the golden rule. And the golden rule is that whoever has the gold rules. And so we are supposed to have a checks and balances. But I recall in a study abroad in 2006, I dropped out of the international law course because I realized there was no way to enforce these laws that I'm studying. Therefore, they're not real. So if there is no one to enforce a law, then that law has no power. And the executive branch is the branch that enforces the law. So if they totally say, you know what, that's not the law anymore, the courts, with all the checks and balances they're supposed to have, Congress with the power of the purse, none of that matters if you don't have the gun, which is why I'm such a big Second Amendment advocate. And that's what Donald Trump has. He has the gold. He has the guns. That's what is in the executive branch.
But technically, Attorney Person Lynn, I mean, the judge is the one that remands people into custody. Those law enforcement agencies are supposed to be under the control and the rulings of the courts, right? So how is it that you're saying
supposed to be? Yes.
But so how are you saying that the executive branch is the one that enforces the law? Shouldn't that be the judicial?
No, the judicial branch interprets the law.
Right.
So the judicial branch is there to say, hey, this executive action was unconstitutional or constitutional, based on, jurisprudence and the actual words of the Constitution. So that's what.
But who enforces what the interpretation of the judge? If the judge interprets the fact that I am guilty of speeding, or that I, don't get to keep my child, law enforcement then carries out the orders of that judge. So why would they be kowtowing to the president when they're supposed to be reinforcing the interpretation of the judicial?
Well, the judicial branch is doing their job.
Right.
The executive branch is saying, regardless of what you say in the judicial branch, I'm going to do what I want to do. And who's going to stop me?
Right. But who is meant to stop them? Where in the system is the enforcement of either Congress's authority or the authority of the judicial branch?
That is the executive branch's job, is to enforce the laws that Congress creates. And even if Congress creates a law that's unconstitutional, then the judicial branch deems it unconstitutional, and the executive branch says, I can't enforce that law because it's unconstitutional. But when the executive branch just decides to just say, I'm not listening to the judicial branch or the congressional or the legislative branch, I'm going to do what I want to do, that is expressly what America was intended not to be. But Donald Trump is challenging that. And the only part of the system left to check that is the people. Yeah. And that's what
so when you say
we have to remember.
When you say the executive branch is meant to enforce the law, you're talking about through the FBI, the CIA, the Army, all of these enforcement organizations that the president chooses the leadership of. That's what you mean, right?
Yes. Yes, and that's who are supposed to be they're the only ones that for sure have guns. Like, the Supreme Court has security, I'm sure. Congressional senators and Congress people have security, but the power of the gun is in the hands of the executive branch. He has the nuclear codes. He is the commander-in-chief of the military and the police forces like the FBI, DEA, and so on.
But not local police forces. So I guess when I'm thinking about judicial, but still the judges, if they interpret the law enforcement is meant to be carrying out what the judges say. It's not that the executive branch gets to make up laws and then enforce them.
That's how it's supposed to be. That is how the system has worked. And then what the executive branch would do is try to find a workaround, similar to what Biden did with the student loans. I believe the judicial branch said it was unconstitutional, something he was doing, and he found a workaround. But the Trump administration seems to just be going forward, going through it with the mindset of who's going to stop me, and that's more of an a dictatorship kind of, monarchy than it is a democratic system of checks and balances.
So, in reality, even though the Constitution says the Congress, I know I'm skipping around a little bit here, but the Congress shall have the power to enforce, they mean through legislation. They don't have any enforcement branch. The sergeant at arms can't say, hey, you have to let the Congress into the Department of Education, or they just have to sit out there like a bunch of little powerless people and
this is
get
what's
locked
being
out.
Exposed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, this is what's being exposed by Donald Trump. And see, when Abraham Lincoln did it with the Emancipation Proclamation, that's something that we celebrate. But it was ultimately, that was something Congress should have done. But they didn't. But he saw it as necessary for the goodwill of the nation. And so he took those steps. And so what Trump is doing is in line with what Lincoln did with the Emancipation Proclamation. Is just not something that we want to see versus something that we did agree with when Lincoln did it.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Lee says in the chat, there are no checks and balances, and the Christian evangelicals are here to break all the norms through force. And I get that, but I'm just trying to say, well, we'll continue this conversation when we come forward. But there has to, the sergeant at arms serves the Congress. Technically, that's a law enforcement position. But is he just a solo guy? Does he have backup? Or have we really been, as you stated earlier, Attorney Person Lynn, just kind of operating on norms, and just because that's how it's done and there is no actual backstop? As you said, maybe that's what Trump is exposing. But what's next? We're talking with Attorney Jaaye Person Lynn. I welcome you into the conversation. 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
Policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Individual results may vary. Consult a doctor prior to use.
If you've struggled to lose weight in the past, this important message is for you, because you could lose as much as 50 pounds or more with Zelfie. Zelfie makes it easy and affordable to get weight loss treatment 100% online. Zelfie providers can prescribe FDA-approved GLP-1 weight loss medications clinically shown to help people lose weight, like Wegovy, Zepbound, and others. Plus, help get the medication covered by insurance, so it's as little as $0 a month.
The doctors are super helpful, and the meds have been a game changer. It's the first program I've had success with.
Before Zelfie, I was unable to lose weight, even though I was eating healthy and exercising 6 days a week. Zelfie helped me not only lose weight, but I feel so much better.
Text GOAL to 200-300 to get started today with Zelfie and see if weight loss medications like Wegovy or Zepbound are right for you. Don't wait. Text now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text GOAL to 200-300. That's GOAL to 200-300. GOAL to 200-300.
What you want to do, huh?
KBLA Talk 1580 is thrilled to share that we have been named as a semi-finalist for the coveted American Climate Leadership Awards, honoring our climate work last year. We're also delighted to announce year 2 of our Climate Justice Crusade. This year's $2 million 12-month campaign will link and combat the relationship between climate change and poor health outcomes for African Americans and the poor. Climate inequities have taken a toll, with multiple health triggers in the Black community, such as extreme heat and poor air quality, made worse by the recent wildfires. Our work to ensure climate justice and climate equity continues. In the coming weeks and months, you'll be hearing a lot more about our 2025 climate campaign. To learn more about our plans for this year and the companies and organizations supporting us, log on to our website at kbla1580.com. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Want to play a game with me and Dad?
Mommy's not feeling good.
You need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with Dayquil VapoCool. It's Dayquil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
Come on, honey. Let's let Mommy rest.
You guys are amazing. And so is Dayquil VapoCool.
DayQuil VapoCool, the vaporizing daytime coughing, aching, fever, power through your day medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Okie dokie. So we started out, we're talking with attorney Jaaye Person Lynn, and we started out asking you about, what happens if the administration, the current Republican administration under the leadership of Trump and Musk, defies the courts. They've tweeted that they are considering it. And basically what you're telling me is nothing. Like, if they defy the courts, they don't go to jail. There's no, obviously there's no consequences. Like, if you and I defied the courts, we would get arrested and probably thrown in jail, would get assets seized or bank accounts frozen. I mean, there are endless, your passport rescinded. There are endless kinds of penalties that the courts do enforce when the average citizen does not comply with the judge's interpretation of the law. But you're saying for presidents, vice presidents, for the executive branch, there are none of those.
Well, what I'm saying is that is the top. That is, as far as the government is concerned, who is supposed to enforce these judicial rulings and these legislative acts. And so when those who are supposed to enforce the law break the law themselves, there is no function within the government outside of the people. See, we have to remember that 10th Amendment, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. And so what would have to happen is the same thing that happened in the American Revolution. The people would have to say that the government is no longer serving us, therefore we need this government taken out and we need a new government, which is in the Declaration of Independence. As we read down in the Declaration of Independence, it says when the government ceases to meet the needs of the people, it's the duty and the right of those people to abolish that government and reinstitute a government amongst them that serves the people. And so that's the only avenue left to hone in an executive branch's defying of judicial and legislative acts.
Okay, and then I mean, that's a whole other conversation. What are the odds of this, remote control society actually having a revolution? Well, I guess it depends how bad it gets. And I kind of asked the same question about Congress, and you've kind of said the same thing. It's the people. Congress, the sergeant at arms is considered law enforcement, but as we've seen the last few days with them knocking on doors, and one lone security guard has the power to keep them out, would you say that's also true for Congress? If it's not the people or the executive branch getting their back, they're basically powerless?
Yeah, well, then what Congress would have to do is withhold the funds of the executive branch.
But the executive branch has already usurped the power of the purse. I mean, they have gone straight into the Treasury computers. They have frozen USAID. People are actually starving right now and not having their medication and having their water and power cut off in all different parts of the world. Those are commitments we already made, that Congress already approved, and so it seems that they have already usurped the power of the purse.
Yeah, and now if we, like for instance, when Saddam Hussein went to the International Criminal Court, right, and if the U.S. didn't support that court, that court wouldn't have had any power to do anything. And so we're in the same position. If a judge tells in state court, where I do most of my practice, if a judge says, remand this defendant, and the bailiff says, no, I'm not going to, and that defendant walks out, the judge has no more power. The judge's power is from the fact that that bailiff in there has that gun on their hip, those handcuffs, and will enforce the judge's orders. But when that relationship breaks down, the judge is ultimately just there for rhetoric.
It's
words,
ultimately just a person in a robe. Right. Okay, so, and you mentioned the ICC. The Trump administration has already put forth an executive order bringing sanctions against the International Criminal Court. Of course, it seems to be retaliatory against the court for trying to have any accountability for Israel, the same retaliation that he's doing against South Africa right now for standing up to Israel and you know what they're doing in Gaza. So again, we've always heard that executive orders are limited. You can't overturn constitutional amendments. You can't overturn laws passed by Congress. You can't just change the system of governance. But once again, it seems like this administration is exposing the fact that there is no way to enforce that, even though the courts are striking down move after move after move that he makes. And I was citing this article in the New York Times, an editorial that says, don't believe him, that a lot of the things they're doing are just meant to shock and awe the press and shock and awe the public, and that they can't really get away with them because the courts will stop them. But it sounds like you're saying the Congress, the courts, and even the power of the purse will not stop them.
Not because they are the branch that is supposed to be why the courts have power. They are supposed to enforce it. Just think of Brown v. Board and the rulings there. The federal government had to come down and help integrate some of those schools because the people weren't listening. Now, if the federal government does not do that, then maybe these people don't walk into these integrated schools ever. And so that's what we're looking at now on a federal level, is that ultimately the checks and balances was an honor system as long as the president honored that system. But once the president decides that, no, you have no power to stop me from doing what I want to do, there's nothing left for Congress or the judicial branch to do. And now we're just in a monarchy.
I mean, and that's really where we are right now. So that, according to your analysis, we're talking about revolution, a public opinion, a backlash of voters, a backlash of attitudes of the people is not going to do it.
No. Well, it will if they're willing to go to American Revolution type levels, but just arguing about it, that's not going to do anything as long as this man is just charging forward with nobody to stop him. And the people who are supposed to stop him, his party is in control of the House and the Senate. And so that's who's supposed to be stepping up, doing something, maintaining this checks and balances, regardless of who's in the White House, because it's more important to maintain the system than to support one particular administration. It should be. But what we're seeing right before our eyes is that the people seem to want the monarchy because he said what he was going to do. He's doing what he said he was going to do. And the people voted for it.
P. Jackson asks, why can't the power of the purse strings stop him? My impression is the reason the power of the purse isn't stopping him is because they've seized control of the power. They've seized control of the money. Elon Musk is inside the Treasury computers, inside those personnel computers where they don't belong, where they're not authorized to be. And so they're not giving Congress that power, and Congress is not pushing back. To your point, we only have 30 seconds here, but what about ex-presidents and ex-FBI directors and ex-Treasury secretaries, Republicans and Democrats? Should they be stepping up right now and calling this out at least?
Everyone who believes in the system should be. Everyone who believes in the system of government should look at whatever a president is doing, even if they agree with it, and say, hey, if it's against what the court said, if it's against checks and balances, we have to go against it based on our belief in the system. Or maybe these people are saying they don't want this system anymore.
Yeah, well, I don't think you're going to like what they're planning to replace it with. Attorney Jaaye Person Lynn and Dominique DiPrima, news, traffic, and sports, then more, only right here.
A safe place to go loud.
A great place for progressive politics.
KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich praised President Trump after receiving a full pardon. Released in 2020 after serving 8 years for corruption charges, Blagojevich thanked Trump for righting wrongs. Ramon Berry, a black man who lost his home in California's Eaton fire, is suing Hilton for allegedly racial profiling. After being offered a free week stay, Berry says he was harassed by security guards who claimed he wasn't a guest. He had to prove his status with hotel employees. Days before the Trump Justice Department dropped the federal prosecution of New York City Mayor Eric Adams, he told top officials not to criticize Trump or interfere with immigration enforcement, assuring them the city wouldn't lose federal grants. And thousands of Danish citizens have started an online petition to buy California from the U.S., gathering 200,000 signatures. This is in response to Trump's attempt to buy Greenland from Denmark. I'm Bree Wood on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Luka Doncic era with the Lakers is off to an impressive start. In the debut game for Doncic in a Lakers uniform, the Lakers dominated Utah Monday night at Crypto.com, 132-113. It was the first game for Doncic since Christmas Day. He had been sidelined with a strained calf muscle. Doncic was in the starting lineup. In 24 minutes, he contributed 14 points and 4 assists. When Doncic gets in shape and loses a few pounds, Lakers Nation will see his true value. The Lakers have won 6 straight and 10 of their last 11 games. The Charlotte Hornets have asked the NBA to investigate the Lakers' physical exam of Hornets center Mark Williams. Williams failed the physical after he was acquired by the Lakers in a trade last week. The NBA rescinded the trade on Saturday, sending all players involved in the deal back to their original teams. Stay tuned on this situation. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. For up-to-the-minute info on distribution hubs, help, and volunteer opportunities in the Altadena area, please visit Neighborhood Servants or Pasadena Community Coalition on Instagram. The Wild Seed Collective is offering free grant workshops to businesses impacted by the LA wildfires. Find them at wildseedcollective.com. Fuller's Psychological and Family Services is offering 12 free therapy sessions to people impacted by the fires who are unable to access care. Contact Executive Director Dr. Ted Koss at tedkoss@fuller.edu. Grief and Hope, the LA Art World Mutual Aid Relief administered by The Brick, is offering help to artists impacted by the blazes. Info is available at the/brick.org. On Instagram, Mutual Aid LAN is updating a Google Sheet in real time with locations, verified GoFundMe sites, and current resources. If you haven't done so yet, it's still a good idea to sign up for Notify LA on your phone for fire alerts and updates. Praying, advocating, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Wanna play a game with me and Dad?
Mommy's not feeling good.
You need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with DayQuil VapoCool. It's DayQuil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
Come on, honey. Let's let mommy rest.
You guys are amazing. And so is DayQuil VapoCool.
DayQuil VapoCool, the vaporizing daytime coughing, aching, fever, power through your day medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
You say you never give in to a meltdown. And never fill your feed with kid photos. You say you'd never put a pacifier in your mouth to clean it. And never let them run wild through the grocery store. So when you say you'd never let them get into a car without you there, no, it can happen. 1 in 4 hot car deaths happen when a kid gets into an unlocked car and can't get out. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Did you know that 1 in 4 people seeking treatment for ED are under 40? HIMS can help. Get started at hims.com/joy. Through hims.com, you can access a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/joy.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
All right, my guest is Attorney Jaaye Person Lynn, and I really asked him to come because I have been trying to figure out what recourse Congress has, what recourse the judicial branch has, what remedies do we, the American people, have to deal with this onslaught of illegal actions by the current Republican administration. I do want to mention, though, the president is meeting with Jordan's King Abdullah II today. He has said that if the hostages are not released by Saturday, he wants to end the ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas is saying his threats will do no good. Meanwhile, Middle Eastern nations are pushing back against this idea that Trump wants to redevelop the entire Gaza Strip as like a resort, the Riviera of the Middle East. And he said on yesterday that he doesn't want a right of return for Palestinians, that he thinks the U.S. would now own Gaza. Again, we're talking about illegal actions on the international stage. Israel can't give you Gaza because Israel doesn't own Gaza, and you can't just take or buy somebody's country. That's not how international law works, obviously. Attorney Jaaye Person Lynn, what enforcement mechanisms are there to international laws and norms for this administration?
The power behind the UN, the international courts, so on and so forth, is the United States' willingness to accept whatever those entities state. When the U.S. ceases to accept the rulings of these entities, which it's doing with its own entities, they really have no power unless the rest of the world combines against it. And so what that means is exactly what it sounds like, because I am of the belief, I saw a skit with the comedian Earthquake who was talking about when he loaded, when he was in the military and loaded nuclear weapons, that there's enough nuclear weaponry in the U.S. to destroy the world before they let somebody else take over. And so that's where we are in this place. Donald Trump knows this. Plus, Donald Trump was convicted of a felony, charged with several more, and still won the presidency.
34
so when
felonies,
you go
yeah.
through, when you go through something like that, and the people still put you in the highest office in the land, that is like a directive from the people to do whatever you so please.
Well, they're saying they have
And
a
that's
mandate,
what
but he
he's
only
doing.
won by 1.5 million votes, and we know there was massive voter suppression, and likely there was some voter manipulation or computer manipulation, although I have no proof of that. But clearly there's no mandate. Now his approval rating is quite low, but they don't seem to care about any of that.
Well, he has no elections to win.
Right.
He's done.
He's
is
a
all
lame duck.
Let's get it while we can, because after this, I mean, it's all going to go down anyway as far as they see it. And Americans should really look back to the 20s, the roaring 20s, and all that meant for the United States and the economy, and then what happened right after that. And we very much seem to be in that space of the roaring 20s headed towards the Great Depression. And that's where I really see things going, because you cannot keep this kind of behavior up and go unchecked. Even though you might have the power here in these United States, the laws of the universe still exist, and people will have to be accountable for their actions.
No doubt. That's a good point, Jaaye. You know, the Gallup poll showed that Trump's rating was historically low, his approval rating. There's a new CBS poll showing that it's historically high. It makes you wonder if that lawsuit against CBS had any impact. But, I mean, it's also completely possible that one poll can show one thing and another poll can show another thing, depending on who they are polling. But it sounds like what you're saying is that all roads lead to revolution or overthrow of the government, or at least widespread unrest.
Well, that's what is the last tool of the people to do something to rein this in. But he has, if he gets the lowest approval rating of any president, what does it matter to him who cannot win another election?
And who, if he does, if he decides that he's going to, they're talking about, there's a proposal to end that term limit so he could do a third term. But I don't think he'd be physically healthy enough to do a third term anyway. But he, they have plans for Donnie Jr., Ivanka, J.D. Vance. They have a whole monarchy lineage of MAGA lined up. But I do think that he is the guy. Like, I don't think Ivanka or Donnie Jr. has the whatever that weird cult magic is that the current president seems to possess. Let's go to Fred calling us from L.A. Good morning, Fred.
Hello, Dominique. Thanks for taking my call. I got two things. Number one, I never thought I would agree with you. Jalen Hurts, the entire Eagle team, the coaching staff, and Serena Williams. They don't need DEI. Now, to the situation at hand. Number two, there is a checks and balance on Donald Trump. It's called impeachment. Now, this all goes back to
how'd that turn out for us last time, Fred?
Not your way. Okay. Now,
well, it went my way because he was impeached, but then they didn't do anything about it. So,
right. He wasn't
and honestly, why would you even fix your mouth to say that, Fred? I know you're a right-leaning independent, but the fact of the matter is that at this moment, the MAGA guys control, the MAGA Republican administration controls both houses of Congress, and they control the judicial. So why would impeachment work?
Well, it's there on the books. They're not going to impeach him. But this goes back to can I give you a little history? I'm fast. This goes back to 9/11, the attack on New York City. Congress decided the Attorney General used to be under the Justice Department like another agency, like a lot of other agencies. Well, Congress decided to create the Homeland Security, and they brought it under the executive branch.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Fred. So what's your question for Jaaye Person Lynn, Attorney Jaaye Person Lynn?
Well, I think he's listening to what I'm saying. Well, they never saw Donald Trump on the horizon when they did it. They always thought they would be a Barack Obama, a George Bush Jr.,
you mean someone that was willing to play by the rules of the American Republic?
Somebody that would maintain the status quo. They never saw Donald Trump on the horizon. But
Got it.
My point.
So you're okay. So I mean, we know this guy. Fred calls us a lot. He's a Trump supporter. So I mean, what do you say to people who, or what do you make of people, I guess, who are jubilant like Fred and are like, yay, we're going to have Trump as a dictator or a strong man, an authoritarian? Like, that's even a thing online where people are saying, you know, we should stop being afraid of dictators. Like, dictators aren't so bad. What do you make of that?
Well, what I make of it is that those people, like, these are Europeans. Europeans had dictators. That's the dictators that we speak of, the Mussolinis, the Hitlers, so on and so forth. They came from Europe. And so the country is full of European immigrants. And so is seeing them revert back to what they accepted in their home countries is not a surprise and something that eventually we'd have to expect. And that's where we are. And I'm not sure if Fred was saying he was happy about it or trying to say that, yeah, when Congress did what they did around 9/11, this is an actual result of those things that expanded the executive powers. It did happen with Lincoln. It happened in 9/11. And now under Trump, it's happening again with the country full of European immigrants that are like, I guess it wasn't that bad when we had it, because all of those people rose to power in a what could be called legitimately based on those systems, the same way we could say Donald Trump was elected legitimately based on this system.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, pending investigation. But to your point, I was doing a deep dive on some of these European fascists, just for giggles, since we seem to be at that moment in history. And I was always thinking, that they were more short-lived, like Hitler's reign, but not so much. Mussolini was in power for 21 years. I think Spain's dictator Franco was in power for longer than that. So these fascist runs are definitionally can be quite lengthy. And so I don't think the idea that we just wait it out for 4 years or 8 years or whatever is going to be viable, especially at the rate at which they're moving fast and breaking things. Talking with attorney Jaaye Person Lynn. You're invited into the convo, 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Attention Los Angeles County renters and landlords. Starting January 1st, 2025, there are new rules limiting rent increases for rent-stabilized units in unincorporated LA County. Most rent-stabilized units will have rent increases capped at 2.565% from January through June 2025, with exceptions for qualified small property landlords and luxury units. To learn more about the new changes, visit rent.lacounty.gov. This message is brought to you by Los Angeles County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs.
I feel so alone. I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like stress inside. When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Talking with attorney Jaaye Person Lynn, kind of looking at the end of what appears to be or could be the end of the American Republic, at least as we've known it. I was talking about those dictators. Yes, Francisco Franco in Spain. He was dictator from 1939 to 1975. That's 35 years, 36 years. So these folks can stick around until they kick the bucket. And if we're going outside the norms, we certainly, it's not just that he doesn't have to run again. He may still stay in office and not run again until the Diet Coke and McDonald's catches up to him. There is a group. I mean, that's how I see it. But there is a group of ex-Treasury secretaries: Lawrence Summers, Timothy Geithner, Jacob Lew, Janet Yellen. They put out a letter saying that the moves that the DOJ agency is making, shutting down USAID and other commitments that the United States has made, it puts us in a form of default where the word of the U.S. is not taken seriously, where things that have already been approved by Congress are being defaulted on. It says they're saying this is a substantial cause for concern that the United States financial commitments are being unlawfully undermined. Of course, the current Treasury Secretary is pushing back on that, saying, no, it's just that the Biden administration was recklessly spending. But this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Why aren't more ex-presidents, why aren't more ex-Treasury secretaries, not just Dems, as in this case, but also Republicans, stepping up and saying, whoa?
Well, why? Well, I think, one, they understand there's very little power outside of, writing a letter, making a speech. Mm-hmm. There's very little power that they have. So that's probably reason number one. And as far as anything else, we haven't seen anything like this in our lifetime, not here in the United States of America. But I think what people should be aware of is that when this U.S. aid stops and these nations all around the world either receive aid from someone else or figure it out on their own, that's going to weaken the American influence around the world. And it's this road that we're on is a very narrowly tailored mindset that is not going to bode well around the world. And as we see, like years ago, we had Bitcoin, and it was worth a few cents each coin, and now each one is worth $100,000. What they're doing with BRICS, and all the countries that are starting to use the BRICS instead of the dollar, we're going to see a massive change on the global scale, and that's where I'm concerned. Now, the one side is like the American mindset is like, no matter what, we still have the bigger guns, we still have the bigger weapons, so even if you get it, we'll come take it from you. But there's another side to that. As AI and this technology moves forward, it allows other people to gain advances that they never had before in an analog world. And so this is bigger than I think people are giving credit to it. But what it certainly is Donald Trump and that last leg, that straight American white man standing up like, hey, we're ready to take our power back, not realizing the bigger impact it's going to have. But certainly those Treasury directors are correct in that the rest of the world will cease to look at the U.S. as a place of influence, as a place of power, as a standard they want to achieve, or what they can do can work out for the benefit of all of America, which I doubt, but that's the path we're on, and that's how we have to look at it. But no matter what, people need to realize that the executive branch, as long as they have those weapons at their disposal, and the people like the Proud Boys who are amongst the people that have weaponry that law enforcement officers don't even have supporting them, it's going to be very hard to overcome those people.
For those not familiar, Jaaye,
just next steps.
For those not familiar, BRICS is an organization. It's an intergovernmental organization of powers that are not Western powers, like Brazil, like South Africa, Egypt, China, India, and they are forming their own power bloc, which is growing. As we speak, more and more nations are joining as a counterbalance to the U.S. and Western powers. Let's go to Carl from L.A. Hi, Carl.
Hey, Dominique, how you doing? I sure wouldn't like to. I sure don't want to go back to the 1920s. There was some nasty stuff happening back in the 20s. Hey, but look, your guest answered this question. What is the GOP Republican Party? They say they need 3 people from the Republican Party, and maybe this stuff would calm down. And has the United States government been overthrown, and it'll never go back to the way it was for the Democratic Party?
Well, that's a good question. The GOP is the Republican Party. The grand old party is what they call it. And I think we need 2 or 3 votes. I think it's 3, right? But so far we haven't had them. They're basically rubber stamping every one of these insanely unqualified cabinet positions. Has the government been overthrown? It's a good question, Carl.
Well, I think so to a degree, because we have to remember Donald Trump is a Republican in name, but he's really the Tea Party candidate. He was the head of the Tea Party. They started the whole movement, and they got their candidate to the highest office, and now they're implementing their plans for America, which includes, the reestablishment of the straight white male as the clear head of this country. And that's where we are right now. And I don't think it's going to go back to anything that it was before. I think it's either going to continue down the path it's going, or there's going to be a reestablish or an abolishment of this form of government and a reestablishing of a new government. Now, what that would look like, I don't know, because I just found out about a Cal exit plan that
we talked about
momentum. Yeah, for California, and we know Texas is always on that line.
Right, for California to be its own nation. Just quickly, because we're almost out of time, Congressman Jamie Raskin is saying that he's going to bring a class action suit against Elon Musk around those Treasury records, and saying that he doesn't have the right to do such as that. Do you think that, again, we're talking about the the courts, and no one's there to enforce the courts. I've seen, lawsuits and letters and agencies and all these little things that Democrats are doing that seem like a knife to a gunfight. What do you say?
Yeah, and I think that's it. If through the judicial branch or the legislative branch, the Trump administration can be honed in, then that would mean something. But if they're barreling through court decisions and there's no consequences for those actions, then a lawsuit is not gonna do much, because even if you win the lawsuit, and that's the thing about winning the lawsuits and why attorneys, we prefer settlements as opposed to jury verdicts, because even after you get the jury verdict and the $5 million verdict, you have to collect. And if you aren't able to collect, then that verdict was just something on paper. And one example of that was with O.J. Simpson in the civil suit. Yeah. They got this big money number on paper, but never got a dime from O.J. or his estate. And so that's where we are, how I see these lawsuits.
Okay.
You can win them and you can feel good, but the practical impact won't be there.
Attorney Jaaye Person Lynn, we are up against the clock. Find him at Lincoln Lawyer, LA. Is that right? Lincoln Lawyer, LA,
yes, ma'am.
On Instagram. Attorney Person Lynn, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Dominique. Have a great morning.
You too. News, traffic, sports, then more on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich praised President Trump after receiving a full pardon for the free week stay. Barry says he was harassed by security guards who claimed he wasn't a guest. He had to prove his status with hotel employees.